Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Church. I was just listening to the intro, and it was talking about a teacher of mine, Shelley, and they cut it just before she explained. She was always talking to us about being in connection, and when we're tripping about other people and what they're doing and all that, it's always about us. It's never really about them. So she'll say, take it back to yourself. Why am I creating this person to be a certain way? Why am I creating this situation to be a certain way? Because she was having that spiritual group start to understand that we are creating our own life, and all of these things are our own creations. Which ties into today's lesson. Before I get into it, I want to welcome everybody who is here in person. We're having a larger group, which is nice. We are now we're a hybrid community, meaning we are having people here and we're having people all over the country and in some cases the world. So if you're watching us this week on Facebook or YouTube, which now hundreds of you are, if you can, tune in and be with us on Zoom, or if you can be in the New York area, come in and visit us. For those of you who want to support the center, because we really could use it, and we appreciate it, there's options in the chat menus for you to support our work. Our work is important, and we'll tell you about that later, but let's think about today's topic. Being who you are. What do you suppose that means? Who are you? This is a talk that I first heard a long time ago by Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill T. was one of my favorite teachers, and I've had 4 or 5. And he was the most outrageous of them all. And as a result, he's probably my favorite. Because he pushed all, I thought, how can this guy be a minister? That was my first thing. Because all my ministers before had been holy types, right? And they were speaking in hushed tones and all that stuff. But he was right in my face and our face and challenging us to be the best that we can be. And he wasn't listening to too many excuses when we'd say, well, I don't know, and he would say, I've got this in today's talk. He would say, there is that which is within you that knows, so stop that crap. Stop talking about what you don't know, because you're a part of something wonderful, you're a part of something beautiful, you are one with the one, and you have direct access to all the knowledge of the world. So he wasn't cutting any of us any slack. Now, he didn't do that in the Sunday lessons, of course, because in the Sunday lessons he was, you can't just scare them all off, right? But when you come into this teaching, eventually you're going to come to the conclusion that I'm the creator of what? My own life. I'm the cause to my own experience. Louise would say I'm 100% responsible for my life. And that's a lot to handle, admittedly, when you come in. But the thing I got clear on is no one was ever suggesting that anybody is to blame for anything. What they were all doing was simply explaining what we call the law of life, the law of mind. And we have tremendous power at our disposal to use. And we have resources that are unbelievable, unfathomable within us to create the kind of life we want. We can heal our life, which was the name of Louise Hay's book, which we go over every single Thursday. I think we're the longest running group in the country, weekly group doing self-healing work, which leads you directly into our teaching. So, being who you are. He started out with that lesson, which I've altered a little bit, trying to keep the main points. He said, we're multi-dimensional beings. We are not skin-encapsulated egos. And his quote next was, a holy person is one who is whole. And I thought, well, that's something worth thinking about? A holy person is a person who's whole. What does that mean to you? So the lesson was, again, be who you are. In my notes, this teacher got an awful lot of attention all over the place because he wasn't there to just coddle anybody. He was there to challenge his students to think, to stretch, to grow, and reconsider many, if not all, of their assumptions, their stories, the ideas that they were passed on to them as children. He wanted you to take a look at any of that orthodox, traditional stuff that you were exposed to, say in any religious trainings that you had. He was fond of quoting Camus. Now, I know probably most people these days have never heard of Camus, Albert Camus. He quoted him often, who commented that the masses, this is Camus, the masses usually get everything wrong, okay? It's just the way it is. You know, and it takes a thinker to think outside of the group think that's going to lead people forward. I've seen that in so many different things. I think some books like The 100 Monkeys with Ken Kai's where, you know, it took a few different, the story was of some monkeys and they're, you know, it was a mother baboon trying to teach her child how to wash sweet potatoes was the story. And she kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And eventually, after many, many years, people started doing it. They started doing it all over the globe. Well, Camus was onto it, the same idea. He said the masses usually get everything wrong because the masses aren't usually thinking. The masses are somewhat asleep. Now, we can be asleep in our own lives too, because I grew up a certain way. I was taught a certain amount of things, and I just, those are my assumptions. I have a lot of assumptions. I have a lot of beliefs. We play with that. We play with that in the book, The Four Agreements. In that book, it's the smoke that gets in the way of us reflecting the light that we are. We call it BS. We call it bologna slices. We have a lot of stuff within us, and we'll fight for that stuff, you know, and maybe it's a good idea to bring some of that stuff to light. So Camus' point was the masses, or this group, this collective, usually gets things wrong in the beginning. Dr. Bill loved Ralph Waldo Emerson for all the gifts he shared in his essays. I did too, since I was probably 18 years old. He, like Emerson, wanted us to think and to own our own power, free ourselves from conventional thinking, free ourselves from programming. And we have so much programming in us, most of us, we don't even realize it. And he wanted us to challenge ourselves by finding a place, sit down and have quiet moments, and start asking yourself things that you need to know. And he said, because Spirit is always there providing answers. It'll provide the answers if you'll slow down enough to listen and engage with it. Just watch the next time a troubling condition comes up. You might ask yourself, this is one of my lines, what's the most self-loving thing I can do right now? Now, the thing about Spirit is when you ask a direct question like that about a certain circumstance, there's going to be an answer. And the first one is going to be the correct one. The second or third are going to be the rationalizations you're going to make. See, you get instant responses and instant answers because you have within you, excuse us for a second. So the next time a troubling situation comes up, ask yourself, what's the most self-loving thing I can do? And you'll have an answer to that. I remember as a kid, my father would say to me, Greg, you act like you have a hotline to the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost. And of course, he was kidding with me at the time. But the fact of the matter is, you do have this connection. You have this connection to Spirit, and it's forever available. My teacher, was relentless, I said before. He would probe us and challenge us to let go of the collective thinking. So I'm thinking about the group that's on the call today. I know there's many. Last week we had well over 100 people, and Thursday too. Those of you who are here with us, you're smarter than that, right? You're not necessarily buying into what the mass thinking is, the collective thinking. We're doing our own thinking more and more, hopefully, right? And I hope that's the goal for everyone with us today. So I remember well the statement, there is that which is within you that knows. So I repeat it today a couple times. And whenever you're in some place where you say you don't know, challenge yourself and say, there is that which is within me that knows. And allow that space and let those answers come to you. Other ministers have said we have an internal guidance system. And I like that idea too, because there's something within me that guides me and inspires me. It's there if we allow ourselves to listen to it. Invite it into your awareness. Camus next in this lesson of Dr. Bill said, no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. So you can't be suppressed. You know who you really are? You can't be suppressed. So let's start being who we are. No matter how the world seems to toss you around, within you there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. If we are today talking about being who we are, then we intend to be awesome in every way. We have power to use. Ernest Holmes encouraged us to take some chances. Step out there more. You are supplied and supported. Don't be so fearful. Take a chance. The universe has your back. We affirm that we are supplied and supported all the time. You hear us say it probably every week. The question is, do you believe you're supplied and supported? Things always come to you at the right time. That's, I know we sit and we wonder and we think we need something immediately and we're struggling and all that. Things come to us at the right time. There's an axiom in our teaching, perfect place, perfect time, all the time. So maybe you could just relax with that, It's one thing to say that you want something, you affirm that you have it, and you believe that it's, it's on its way, you believe it's here, and then you let go of it and let Spirit do its work to bring things about. Things always come to us at the right time. There's a lot of pain and suffering in the world. Sometimes we have pain ourselves. It's sometimes difficult to think of life working out in divine order when we observe pain or we're in pain. And it's difficult to see how our consciousness had anything to do with what's happening in our lives. It's true, though. Our consciousness has a lot to do with what's happening in our lives. Our thoughts and our emotions are acted upon according to the laws that we don't fully understand. We understand quite a bit in this teaching, but we don't understand it all. People have been studying metaphysics for hundreds of years, and it's not really that complicated, the ideas. We're talking about the law of mind, the law of consciousness. Our own dear Louise Hay often said it's all very simple. And then she would go on to say, what you put out comes back to you. So much of the misery in human life is self-inflicted. One of our axioms, again, is we're in the perfect place, perfect time, all the time. Life unfolding perfectly. It is, according to laws, some of which we still don't understand. Most conventional thinkers don't think that their thoughts and emotions are acted upon at all, and especially according to laws. We must continually remind ourselves that our thoughts are things. The tendency of our thoughts is reflected back into our life. You hear me talk about this all the time. I say if you're a person who's, essentially have the idea of like Chicken Little, that the sky is falling, if you're always worried about everything, that's a whole body of thoughts that's going to be reflected in your life. And I don't want to hang out with you too much if you're thinking the sky is falling. The thing is, if you realize that you're doing that to yourself, the only person that can turn that around is going to be you. The tendency of your thoughts are going to be reflected back into your life. So somehow, some way, if you know it, that's the way it works, and you're smart here. Everybody here I know you're smart and you're engaged. Then I got to be willing to do the work to turn that around. Traditional faiths and traditional thinking is full of average and ordinary thoughts, conventions, and that kind of thinking produces ordinary results. I have some of my family that lives in a very small town, and they've been there for 50 years. And I go there, it's almost like it's a step back in time. I swear to God, it sounds like the same conversations that we were having 40, 50 years ago. Now, there's nothing wrong with these people. I love them very much. There's not a lot of expansion that's been going on. Fortunately, I got out of there, and I was exposed to different cities, different people, thinkers, new thought. So I could expand my thought, and if I expand my thought, I can expand my world. Traditional faiths and traditional thinking is full of ordinary conventions, and that kind of thinking is going to produce, like attracts like. It's going to produce ordinary results. Wherever humankind, though, has advanced, there's always been some type of outrageous person, some type of rebel, an original thinker. And this thinker stood up to some convention or some old theme, and this is really the way of progress. You'll read that just about everywhere. The one that comes to mind with me is always Emerson and others. The average or conventional thinker produces conventional outcomes. See, you can't say, I've always done it this way, my family's always done it this way. And if you say it that way, like this is the right way, that just suggests that you're not open, and life is about expansion for all of us. So please don't try to keep yourself like you are. I heard from a friend this weekend who told me, I'm looking forward to seeing you. The person's now living in Spain. Met him in Peru. And he says, I don't like change. It's one thing I don't like in my life is change. I like everything to be the same. And I almost gave him a sermon back, but I stopped. You could better get good with change, because change is really what is always going to be happening. So when we think about how your life is, we always want to be willing to embrace the new and challenge, our thoughts. People who have strong opinions get themselves into a lot of trouble, because we make opinions based on what we know in any given moment, but, look at those same opinions 6 months, a year or two from now, and, hopefully you have a willingness to keep looking, because things are going to come up for you, and you're going to probably set some of them aside and have some new ideas. Most people pretty quickly go towards thinking that they are right about most things, if you notice. It's not intentional, but it's just what most people do. It probably would be smarter to be more open-minded. Then, you know how quickly you judge people? It's like fast. And especially if you got any kind of history with them. You know what they're going to say before they say it. You've already got an opinion before they say it. Now, it's not necessarily the most intelligent thing, but it's what we do, I don't intend to judge anybody, but if I have a history with people, all of a sudden I've got an opinion. So to be in a new moment, truly in a new moment, you want to try to be free of your past interactions with anybody, and try to understand that this is a spiritual being in front of me and this is a new moment. So you want to clear yourself of the past in every encounter, so you can really be alive in that moment with every new interaction. Camus next said, We are thinking people. It is the job of thinking people not to be on the side of the executioners of the status quo. What does that mean? Thinking people aren't just trying to get along, with what's out there. Thinking people think. Think for yourselves. Dig for yourself. When you're listening to the stuff that's on what Bill Tolliver used to call the blind eye, meaning the television, think for yourself. Turn the other channel. Listen to the other point of view. Dig a little bit deeper. You're not here just to absorb information from the airwaves and then all of a sudden think that that's gospel truth, because I can promise you it's not. Think for yourselves. Inquire within. If you go within, you'll get the answers that the opinions of others can never provide you. Some 30, 40 years ago, who knows, could have been longer, the teachers were telling me, turn off the TV, watch it much less. And I never thought it would get to where it is right now, because in those days I'd walk through my mother's house and I don't know who was watching. There's people, always babysitters and people around, but people are watching shows like Jerry Springer and craziness like that. And I used to say, I can't believe that stuff's on TV. Who the hell would watch it? It was unbelievable to me at the time that there was any people that, there'd be any audience for it. But it's equally unbelievable for me today, the amount of time people spend on, say, TikTok. And, people spend 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I don't know how that's enriching anybody's lives. I truly don't. We use social media here for a purpose. We're letting people know that we exist and the lessons that we have, the ways we can help and uplift you. But you've got to decide. You're a consumer of all this information. You have to decide what you want to entertain in your consciousness. If we're not careful, we can wind up being programmed even now. Dr. Bill always told us to turn off the TV. He said, turn off the bad news, because it's always bad. It's always sensational. Just because it's on TV or just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's correct. In this lesson next, Albert Camus said, the masses are always wrong. And Dr. Bill had more colorful ways of saying the masses are always something, but I will refrain from saying it on Sunday morning. But I totally get what both he and Camus were trying to say. He uses an example, the Renault car. Renault is a French car, that had a slogan. It borrowed from another slogan, but the slogan they were using one year was 10,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong. And Dr. Bill said that morning, yes, they can be wrong. They often are wrong. They're most likely wrong. See, all those were very important lessons for me to help me understand that I am and you are an original thinker. You're an original thinker in the world. See, you don't really need to look to your right and look to your left and see what other people think and what the way they think. You're an original thinker in the world. You are an individualization of the life of God. You are one with His source. And you are here to discern and to decide for yourself what is true and what is good. Ernest Holmes, our founder, author of our text, and many of the other authors I share with you all ask you to inquire within. Ernest Holmes wasn't concerned about building a church. That was some of the people that were around during his time and afterwards. He was only concerned with you inquiring within and developing a direct connection with Source. There's other suggestions in addition to inquiring within. You can commune with nature. Most of us grew up with some type of religious background or training. Most of us come out of a Judeo-Christian background of some kind, but there's, of course, others that another training. And this training has been passed down to us over the centuries. And in this teaching, we don't ever teach you to look above or look elsewhere. And we don't teach you that you have to do anything to become better. You may not realize it, but you're already as good as it gets. You are the whole bit. You have everything you need within you. You are an individualization of it. Creative intelligence is operating in you and has brought you this far, and you are here to learn more and express more. You are here to have a certain dominion over your life. You are here to experience and express life, and life is always expanding. Humankind is said to have a special place in the universe because unlike the animals and the plants and other creatures, we are able to reflect upon life and think in new and unconventional ways, and life responds. How spectacular that is. We learn here that we are filled with creative power. With that in mind, let's let go of old thinking, fearful thoughts. Let's have the courage to change the lesser ideas we have for the greater and learn to think and do things that bring us joy. That was an expression I learned from Dr. Bill many years ago. Keep changing the lesser ideas for the greater. Have the willingness to do that. We're beginning to trust our inner self to guide us. This particular center is somewhat devoted to the teachings of Louise, as you know. And her main thing is loving yourself, honoring yourself, discovering the light that is within. As we do this, all the doors of the universe open. Each of us are on a journey to become whole, full of light, full of wonder. If you're not going to necessarily, and in this process of becoming whole, you're not going to necessarily please everybody. You care very much about people, but you're not trying to offend them, but you're honoring your own path. Your need for wholeness might ruffle a few feathers, but you need to go forward anyway. People are changing, I'm changing, and that's good. This is where our faith comes in. If you're on a call like this or a broadcast like this, or if you're involved in new thought, you really have the willingness to keep turning things around. So if you're on a call like this, most of you understand that all of life is evolving and changing, and so are you. So if you've come this far, chances are you're in it for the duration. We learn to do affirmative prayer here. We learn to have a positive expectancy. We keep working on ourselves to live the affirmative life. We do this so we can get rid of negation or negativity wherever it appears. In our Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes said of affirmative prayer, it's the time, the art, the method of ridding ourselves of the negation or the negativity. So it takes some time, but we're willing to do the work. And so we can be flexible enough to allow things to unfold in perfect time. Camus, once again, for this lesson, said, every one of us, we all carry within us places of exile, our crimes, our ravages. Our task is not to unleash them on the world, all that junk, but to transform them in ourselves. And as we do, and others. It's a very powerful quote. We carry all these places of exile, this brokenness inside of us, these places of judgment, where we judge ourselves and others with anger and hurt and all this. We carry that, and we're here to let it go and transform it. We're here to transform ourselves, and in the process, as we turn it all around, we can transform our lives and will be of great value to the world. In our teaching, we learn how to transform and release the negative, all of it, thought by thought, and to see ourselves and others as they really are. Be who you are. You are a spiritual being with tremendous gifts. Do you understand that we're all spiritual beings doing the best we can at any given moment? See, wherever you're judging another person, it's a mistake. Wherever you're gossiping or criticizing another person, wherever you're beating yourself up, it's a mistake. Everybody, including yourself, you've done the best you could up until this point, and you might see some of you will lament and go into, oh, ain't it all, I've done this and I've done that, and give it up. Stop in the name of love. Just stop wherever you find yourself doing any of that stuff on yourself, and towards others. You wake up in this particular center as you practice this teaching, and you realize, my goodness God, I've done that long enough. Starting here, starting now, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to realize my worth and my value, and I'm going to realize that every other human being that I'm ever going to experience is a spiritual being. I don't have to like what they're doing, but they are where they are. They're evolving, and they're in a certain place in time, and you don't have to worry about where they're going in their spiritual journey. They're on one, and we are too. Dr. Bill used to say to me in the classes many years ago, it's as though you were in a school. And think of it that way, maybe it'll help you, learning lessons. At least this teaching makes some kind of sense. Any of us can observe what's going on TV and conclude that the whole world is going to hell. I've watched some of it myself, and I think, oh my goodness, I just got to read a book. Or tune into something. I'll go to YouTube or TED Talks. Well, don't program yourself with the stuff that's going to bring you down. It's not necessarily true, half of it anyway. And then you're putting your time and attention there where you could be putting it in some place that would bring you joy, humor, or educate you. When you come here, you learn about the power that's everywhere present, and you learn that you can use it and that it will respond to you. We make progress here in this teaching. For those of you who show up regularly and really do the work and try to apply what you're learning, you're going to see progress very quickly. There's a bit of quickening as we really begin to embrace the teaching and practice. Conventional thinking will not bring you where you want to go. If you stop thinking and you just go and see, I got a whole lifetime of opinions. If you keep on going with that, it's not going to take you where you want to go. It's people who stay on the path, keep living the affirmative life, keep looking to see the good in the God, who continually think the great thoughts, keep connecting in love and forgiveness, forgiving themselves and others. People who keep doing this and keep having the high watch, meaning they're just going to monitor their own thinking and cancel the negatives. These are the agents of great change in the world. You'll rarely hear these folks complain about anything. They're usually focused on where they're going. They're focused on their vision. They're focused on their master plan. They're focused on, they have big ideas. They're not caught up in the muck, They don't have the time for it, honestly. They've hitched their wagons to the stars. And that's a Ralph Waldo Emerson statement. But when you come in here and you start to realize what you are and who you are and the value you have, and you are one with the one, you are a child of God, an individualization of God, imbued with tremendous power and ability, then you just don't have time for the stuff that, it just doesn't interest you as much. We are here to be whole again, not holy. As we discover who we are, and we develop more self-realization. It's just like, my God, I'm one with the one. That's the best kept secret of the year. God is where? God is within me, operating through me. That's a great discovery. Most of the world doesn't know this. You forget it yourself. So you come into a teaching like this and these broadcasts, and you keep getting reminded, I'm one with the one. I have the power to change my life. It doesn't matter what's happened for the past 50 years. Starting here, starting now, it can all be new. It will be new if you put a demand on consciousness. And you keep being the guardian at the gate. Meaning you don't let all that stuff keep coming in. As soon as it comes in, you cancel it out. You replace it. You trade in the lesser for the greater. We realize that we are the ones that we have been, we'll say, I am the one I've been waiting for. And in your case, you say that to yourself, I am the one that I have been waiting for. It's not going to happen unless it happens through you. We must practice self-acceptance, meaning we must love ourselves radically no matter what the hell we've done in the past. We must accept all aspects of ourselves and have great compassion for ourselves. And as we do that, you're going to be able to have that same compassion for other people wherever they are. There's a shadow side to all of us, without a doubt. We're not in denial about it, meaning we have work to do. Camus said, there is no sun without shadow, and it's essential to know the night. So we don't want to be in denial about our stuff, okay? But don't make the stuff the big thing, because the stuff is nothing. You know, you deal with it, what comes up, you learn how to handle it, you learn how to handle your thinking and your emotions. Because you are greater than all of it. Most of us, as we do our inner work, become aware that of the shadow, and we also become aware of the inner dialogue, which I talk about every single Thursday. Because that inner dialogue creates everything. So don't dismiss it. I mean, in the sense of don't think it isn't there, it's there. The things that we say and do, we know there's things within us that we say and do that work against us. So once we know that, it would be smart to do what? Start challenging some of the negative stuff. As I said in the beginning today, we are multidimensional spiritual beings. Yes, spiritual, and living in a physical world as well. To be whole, we must get to self-acceptance, realizing that we are unfolding, evolving spiritual beings, and we make mistakes while we're growing. So what? That's what we all do. It's not a crime. I admit it. Look, I make lots of mistakes. Who here doesn't make mistakes? You know, we're perfect in the sense we're spiritual beings and we're unfolding. And that's great. We're learning to love ourselves. That's the work. Love ourselves, accept ourselves. We got to learn to love ourselves even more when there are aspects of ourselves that, you know, we don't really like so much. Louise would have said, has said, self-acceptance is the key to all positive changes. We are where we are in consciousness. Some days I'm thrilled with it. I think, oh my goodness, I know all this. I'm kind of like, it's great, right? We are where we are in consciousness. Other days I think, oh, you have such a long way to go. I'll laugh about it. And we do the things we do. We make choices. We are where we are. And it's because of our consciousness, our awareness. Here's the good news. We're all moving forward, whether we know it or not. Even the world is moving forward, whether they are aware of our teaching or not. We release the need to beat ourselves up for being where we are. We celebrate the fact that we've come so far. We release the need to blame other people for anything. It's our thoughts and desires that are shaping our life. We know that conventional thinking will never go beyond where it is, the construct of getting through or getting by. Now that might satisfy some of you. Are you satisfied that you're just getting by? Are you satisfied with that? That kind of thinking won't satisfy most people on this call. It won't bring you peace either. It won't bring you the excitement and the wholeness that most people on this call want. I see a lot of people, I know there's a lot of people with frustration. They don't feel like they're enough. They don't feel like they do enough. They don't feel like they're adequate. That's the reason Louise Hay's book has been such a stellar success, because she hit upon that. Most of the world doesn't feel, they don't feel good enough. Why? Well, it's because most of the world are caught up in old patterns, and we do too. We think in terms of lack and limitation and struggle, and we look at ourselves and we judge ourselves, and then there's shame and blame and all of that. When we're in any of these states of consciousness, even for those of us who know the truth, when we're reminded of the truth, that you're whole and you're wonderful and you're beautiful, with some of us, there's an underlying thing that says, yeah, but, I'm not really that good, and yeah, but. So we go in this kind of story of some kind of why we are where we are. We're still holding on to something. We're waiting for something or someone to change. See, we're thinking we'll be okay when it changes or someone does something, that we would then be okay. Our life would be okay. So, even those of us who are beginning to work the teaching, we still sometimes wear a social mask, and we have an act. We act as though we're happy. We say we're fine. We do that still, some of us, don't we? And that's incredibly unfortunate that we seem to do this, but we do. In those moments, we've forgotten our teaching, and we've forgotten our connection with the universal mind and supply. Things are so good right now, and yet how many of us can truly say that we feel that way? The truth is, it's not going to get better. It's good now. These are the good old days right now. So let's wake up to know that this is it. This is our wonderful, glorious life right now, and how sweet it is. Once you learn this thing called principle that we talk about often, and how it works, and you start to get excited, like God's got my back, the universe has my back, the universe is saying yes to me. Remember the movie The Secret, the image of the genie. Your wish is my command. As you think and as you believe, you will receive. Once you learn this thing called principle and how it works and get excited about it, excited about the fact that life responds to you, that's something. It's what life does. It's what it has to do. Life has to respond to you. You don't have to look for it. It's always there responding. You don't have to pray to it. Don't pray above or elsewhere, because it's always there in you, operating through you, responding to you. That is something to get excited about. Commit yourself to remembering it's there, meaning it's here. Set your smartphones or your watches to remind yourself. That's a really good thing that I didn't have 20 some odd years ago. You can set your watch every 15 minutes or every half an hour to remind you of what you want to be reminded of. How great you are, how wonderful you are. Or you could have a reminder that, life has my back. The universe has my back. Life is responding to me. Keep reminding yourself of that and keep practicing it. Keep affirming it. Ernest Holmes did not promise us riches in the teaching, nor did any of the other New Thought teachers that I have ever encountered. Ernest Holmes his promise is that we will get better control over conditions in our life. There's power for good in the universe, and we can use it. If you keep using it, if you're thinking positively, if you're affirming positively, if you're knowing that you're whole and complete and beautiful and wonderful, if you believe it yourself, you will start to see evidence of that changed thought, that changed consciousness. This is really saying our life circumstance, any and all, can and will change. Okay? Even if it looks really bleak, it can change. A saying that I put on a website 20 years ago is, the conditions in my life don't have consciousness. I have consciousness. So why keep on talking about the conditions? What will change the conditions is your consciousness. Our circumstances can and will change as our attitude and our outlook changes. Only when we become more whole will the outer world and circumstances change. Our teaching is very practical. The universe can't do for us what it can't do through us. Please stop begging and pleading for God outside of you to change anything. It doesn't work that way. Spirit is alive in you and can change things dramatically. You can change your perception, your reality about yourself and life. You can change the way you think about people. The power is always in you that can heal your life. A few more things. The universe has a tendency to mirror your predominant thinking. So let's set our sights and thoughts on big ideas like wholeness, peace, oneness, unity, power. How about love and beauty? Nowhere in the textbook does it say it's all going to get better. It does suggest that your consciousness is going to keep expanding if you contemplate bigger ideas like peace, love, wholeness, unity. Your consciousness and your understanding and your attitude will change if you approach each day with calm certainty that all is well and maintain that practice. If you do this, it's going to have a tremendous impact on your life. There will be a quickening, and you'll start to see things happen, in a much more rapid way than at any time before in your life. Knowing that life is responding to you as you entertain this reality, you're going to find that you have plenty of time. But here's the thing, why waste time? We spend a lot of time doing things that aren't terribly important, Dr. Bill said in that lesson. To show someone or the world, he said we spend a lot of time trying to show the world that we're okay. He said that's a waste of time. Or we expend effort trying to change other people, and that's a bigger waste of time. We try to change the way people think, another waste of time. Save your breath, he said. Let go and let God. Everyone is in the right place, getting the right lessons at the right time. Raymond Charles Barker, you've heard me talk about before, he had a lesson that drew a huge crowd, how to change people. They filled the church that day. Only for him to tell you, can't be done. So we don't try to change anybody. We work on changing our own consciousness. So life is always moving forward, thank God, right? And what is getting better always is you. Here. Keep working on yourself. You're going to be amazed before you're halfway through. If you tune in a little bit more, see, you can tune into this place. We do important work here. If you tune in 3 times a week, it's like you're being reminded 3 times a week. And if you miss a session, you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Facebook. I used to buy these cassettes. Back in those days, it was cassettes before CDs. For my $7, and I would listen to those cassettes several times because I needed to keep reminding myself of this information. As you do this, as you tune in more, as you practice it, as you challenge yourself, you're going to begin to see more of the wonderful things happening around you because of you, because of your changed consciousness. There is power for good, and you're using it all the time. It's responding to you all the time. It's who you are. So let's start being who we are. You're a center of God activity. Do you know that? Are you acting that way? Do you have a little bit? Well, you're going for self-realization. You're waking up to who you really are. So we're learning to be who we are. We forget who we are. This teaching in our classes give us an opportunity to remember. Life is unfolding. There's always something new happening. There it is today, a new lesson or another lesson. Beyond lessons, there's more lessons for me. The process of life, though, is one of liberation because we keep growing and expanding. In this teaching, we are clear that no one can make us better. I used to go off to every kind of guru that there was on planet Earth once upon a time. Wherever there was a bus or a plane or a train, I was there. And then I realized, and I was, you learn this. There's no place to go. This is a journey without a distance. Everything you're looking for, you already have. Our value and our worth are already established. It's a certain type of person that comes to these classes and keeps coming to our lessons, and they stay because they realize how important these lessons are for the world and for themselves to be reminded. And there's some of you that will miss because of your jobs and all, and some of you are supporting us from different states and countries, and you write, you tell me that you're watching on YouTube and elsewhere, and how important the classes are. These folks are searching, for the truth, and the wanting to be reminded of this. And I used to be one of those people. Again, I'd buy the lessons, I'd listen to them a few times. Humankind is a funny species with such amazing gifts. Dr. Bill said, we're amazing. We're the only creature, though, that refuses to be who we truly are. How great we are. The amazing gifts we possess. You know, Barker, I think it was, or no, it was Holmes, said, you know, it's as though you have an account downtown, a bank account with trillions of dollars in it, and your name's on it. But we don't go downtown and we don't learn how to open up, how to receive our gifts. We have the gifts, it's established, amazing gifts. Why do people resist being who they really are? At least with the masses, they don't know who they are. They're out there reacting to everyone and everything, and they're all caught up in doomsday thinking, and they're into division and all of that. It's clear that they don't know who they are. But what about for us, those of us on the call, who do know who we are? Why don't we embody it as much as we could? We who have this awareness or this exposure, maybe now, you know, we could say, I want to come from this connection a little bit more. Maybe we realize I can do more. I can practice more. Maybe our eyes are opening more and more, hopefully. We have a saying from Dr. Ike, we can't lose with the stuff we use. And it's true, if we practice knowing that we're one with Source, one with all that there is, you can't lose. If you keep coming from that place of love, that connection with love and the realization I'm one with everything, you can't lose. We're taught here not to be making our life about anybody else. I used to do that. I'd be explaining my life in terms of what other people were doing. We're taught here not to be making our life about anyone else. We who are a new thought know if change is going to take place, it's going to come through us and our expanded consciousness. We, over time, with practice, learn to exercise authority in our own life and over our own emotions. Dr. Bill said, we are cheerleaders of life everywhere. You know, we're here to say great and good to everybody. We have compassion for people even when people are out of sorts. We absolutely care. We know, though, that we do our work in consciousness. By realizing our connection with Source and with everyone, we understand spirit and life itself is unfolding in us and through us. We have a certain mastery over circumstances because of our connection with Source. We realize in the final analysis, acting and reacting, we realize that we in the final analysis are always acting and reacting the way we choose to act or react. For example, in your life, if some people are showing up being very rude or ignorant in your job or your work, or even if they're doing worse things, if you're really centered in this teaching, you're empowered, you're coming from a place of connection, you're most likely not going to react. Last week I spoke in a class or somewhere about the idea of fish hooks. That came to me 20 years ago. And I was in business, it seems like there's always something that had the potential of getting me to lose my cool. Over time, when I learned these lessons, refuse to be offended, I just don't pick up the hook. You can sticks and stones, right? They throw them at me. It doesn't matter what people say. If you're really empowered or coming from a place of connection, you're not going to react to this stuff. Your healthy self, your inner self, will say equivalently, what does this have to do with me? They're tripping, okay, that's people trip, but what does that have to do with you? Now, you could go and react to everything if you wanted to. I remember when I was younger, I'd be fighting all day long. That was an old Irish thing. I'm Irish. Is this a private fight, or can anybody get in on it? That's not very intelligent, and so we evolved past that. What does it have to do with me, what other people are saying or doing? Nothing. There's no need to react to foolish behavior, is there? In those situations, whatever is taking place, it's always a statement of someone's consciousness. Dr. Bill advised us in the talk, Be Who You Are. He said, let your healthy side take it all under advisement. If there's something for you to learn, take it under advisement, but you don't have to react and respond. Always understand that people are wherever they are. Refuse to be offended. People react and act out all the time. Try not to take what people say personally. It has little to do with you, and they don't mean it half the time. Let it go. Say to yourself, I can see peace instead of this. I've been saying that for many, many years. So together, we can see peace instead. I can see this behavior as what it is, a cry for attention or help. Dr. Bill used to say, again, my healthy side will take it under advisement. You would very rarely get him to react to anything because he knew people are doing what they do. So we do that on a good day because there will be days where we don't do it that way. There will be days where we will react and we'll lose it because we're human and we're in a body, we're having a human experience. It's a privilege, first of all, to have a body, an instrument to use. We're here in our physicality to learn and grow. We intend to love ourselves wherever disharmony or dis-ease appears. Wherever there is a disturbance, we release the need to criticize others or anyone who's experienced an illness or who's caught up in any form of dis-ease, including when they're acting in different ways. We release the need to criticize them, ourselves, when people are in dis-ease. Once again, we know the truth and we focus on wholeness. Going back to today's lesson, be who you are. We want to know what is working against us in consciousness and not repress it. We don't, however, want to keep punishing ourselves over and over again for things we've done a long time ago or we remember doing. We must find a way to let it all go, to let go of the guilt, the blame, the shame, and all of it if we want to have lasting change. Louise Hay said, all is well. Let us take that in and let us comprehend the perfection of what is here and here now. Know with me that you, yes you, are a perfect point of awareness in this perfect life. There's nothing you need to do. There is something to know. And the thing to know is that all is well. I want to read a little thing that's important to me. It's guided me for 40 years. It came from a 12-step program. It's on acceptance. And I think it ties in with today's lesson. It's a short passage. Acceptance. See, if you understand nothing happens in God's world by mistake, then this will tie into it. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I'm disturbed, it's because I find some person, place, or thing, some situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. I'll find no joy or peace until I accept this person, place, or thing as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in the universe by mistake. Let us today focus on the perfection of life that's always unfolding by means of each and every one of us. Life, by the way, presents us with many lessons over and over, so you don't have to learn them all right at once. If you don't learn it now, you'll get it later. Have faith that you're going to learn all you need to learn when you need to learn it. Relax. Everything's working out. We learn self-acceptance. We learn to accept our problems or challenges, knowing that they are lessons in consciousness. Be who you are, because who you are is good, very good, and so it is.